Hi, my name is McKibbett, and this is my audience. So how many times when you turn on the television do you see a headline about guns? How many times do you see something about a mass shooting, an accidental shooting, a drive-by shooting, a shooting when children are involved? You hear constantly about these shootings that are happening in America, and it's become an American epidemic. That's why I think it's very important that the government begin to implement stronger gun control policies. I'm going to be honest. I, about a month and a half ago, believed we didn't need gun control policies. I didn't think it was necessary. I thought Americans had the right to bear arms, there's no issue, and we'll be fine, and gun control is not a big deal. However, a month and a half ago, I started doing research on a gun control debate that I was participating in. And I did research on both sides, pro and con of gun control. And after doing that research, I found out that gun control is necessary. And it's incredibly important. It's a hot button topic, and we need to keep talking about it. And we need to keep talking about it in order to make it more apparent to people of how gun control is necessary. So I'm going to show you how gun control is necessary by talking about three separate things. I'm going to be talking about mass murders in American society. I'm going to be talking about gun violence in America overall. And I'm also going to be talking about another country that also had gun violence issues and how they were able to successfully use gun control to end deaths in their country. So first of all, I'm going to be talking about mass shootings. We've all heard of recent mass shootings. We heard of in the Pulse nightclub shooting in the summer of 2016, where 49 people lost their lives. We heard about the most fatal gun shooting in history that happened just this October at the Country Music Festival, where 58 people lost their lives and 500 people were injured. And then not even a month after the most fatal shooting in American history, we had another one yet again, where it was in a Texas church and 26 people died. We saw it on every news station, we saw it on every Facebook feed, and it was a big deal. And according to the map of mass shootings, that was an article issued by the Washington Post, they put this image, and it says 1,048 victims. Each gun was used to kill an average of 4 people, and not counting shooters, the 1,048 people came from nearly every imaginable race, religion, socioeconomic background, and 161 were children or teenagers. Guns affect everyone, they affect everyone's lives, and that's just 1,048 from mass shootings specifically. And here's the scary part. Not only did we see 1,048 victims on televisions, on our Facebook feeds, and on these news feeds, these mass murders only count for 0.5% of total gun deaths in the United States. If you see, there's this little microscopic black box in the corner, and this box represents the number of deaths, and this represents the number of injuries. So those news stories that you saw of those individual people who lost their lives in those vignettes and those sad, terrible stories only account for 0.5% of the total gun deaths in the United States. So the stories you saw were not even compared to how many lives are being influenced, which leads to my next point. There is a total gun violence epidemic in the United States. Here's another source. It's called the Gun Violence Archive, and it's updated every single day. And it says, the total number of just total gun incidents is 57,171. There was 14,412 just from deaths. There was 29,277 from incidents. There was 654 just from children, and the numbers go on and on and on and on. And these numbers say a lot about the United States as a whole and how we view our people. We need to care about them. We need to put things in effect that affect these lives. This is 57,000 people, and that's not including the 22,000 suicide deaths that occur at the hands of guns every single year. That is 80,000 American lives that we're kind of ignoring. And this is a problem, and there will be no solution without action. And we are doing the same thing in America over and over and over again. And we're expecting different results, and that's kind of the definition of insanity. We need to limit gun ownership so we can help these 80,000 plus lives that are being influenced by guns each year. And that leads me to my final point. How do we do that? And how do we know it's successful? How do we know gun control is even going to solve these 80,000 people's issues? Well, Australia actually implemented gun control a while back, and they were very successful. In 1996, they had a mass shooting in Port Arthur where a guy was just simply eating breakfast, and all of a sudden he pulled out a gun and he killed 35 people and wounded 23. That was Australia's biggest gun mass murder at the time, and that acted as a catalyst for the civilians to they wanted to do something about it. They decided that enough was enough. And according to the Atlantic's article, Australia's Lessons on Gun Control, Australians are actually very similar to Americans. They believed in individualism, they were very pro-gun before then, but they decided enough was enough. So they started a ban on automatic and semi-automatic weapons. They decided there should be a 28-day waiting period in between wanting a gun and buying a gun, and they implemented a buyback program that got 600,000 guns off the streets. So that's how we did it. However, the question is, was it successful? And yes, it was. It's been 20 years since, and here is a graph that shows the decline in gun deaths since that 1996 gun implementation. There's been a 59% drop in homicides in Australia since 1996. There's been a 65% drop in suicides, and there's been a 100% drop in mass shootings. That means mass shootings since 1996 have been completely eradicated. And if it works in Australia and they have these same ideas of individualism and gun control, then it should be a foundational model for the United States. So in conclusion, mass shootings, gun violence, are affecting Americans every single day. This is a map of the United States, and each and every dot represents one time that gun violence affected American lives, and it's clear that the map is quite red. So in conclusion, I think gun control is very important, and that's very clear in our mass shootings and our gun violence records, and it can be clear of how we can implement this by looking at Australia. I think American lives matter and safety matters, and therefore we have to include gun control in our society. Thank you, and here's my audience.